The flat sun theory. Everyone argues about the shape of the Earth. Almost no one asks the more dangerous question. What if it's the sun that isn't what we're told? The flat sun theory doesn't appear in textbooks. It doesn't trend online. It's buried inside obscure forums, deleted research posts, and audio recordings that vanish within hours of being uploaded. Because the theory isn't about astronomy. It's about control. According to the flat sun theory, the sun is not a burning sphere floating millions of miles away. It is a flat, circular structure, closer than we're told, fixed in place, and artificial. Not a star, a system. The earliest references come from pre-war researchers who noticed something impossible. During certain atmospheric conditions, the sun appeared to change thickness, not size. Not brightness, thickness, as if it had an edge. Pilots in the 1940s reported the same phenomenon at high altitude. When the sun sat low on the horizon, it didn't curve the way a sphere should. Instead, it flattened, like a coin turning sideways. Those reports were classified. The pilots were reassigned. Some never flew again. By the 1960s, thermal imaging technology introduced a new problem. Heat signatures taken during sunrise and sunset showed the sun emitting energy unevenly, as though heat was being projected in layers. Flat layers. Engineers flagged it as an error. They always do, but then came the shadows. In multiple locations across the globe, objects cast shadows that didn't align with a spherical light source. Angles bent incorrectly. Distances didn't match expected curvature. The shadows were dismissed as atmospheric distortion. But distortion doesn't repeat itself with precision. The conspiracy claims the sun is not floating freely, but mounted, locked into position above the Earth, rotating mechanically to simulate a day-night cycle. Not moving through space, moving on a track. Why fake it? Because a flat sun would explain something no model can fully answer. Why human circadian rhythms, psychological cycles, and even emotional states sync so tightly to daylight transitions, down to the minute. Not natural rhythm, scheduled exposure. The flat sun theory suggests the sun is a regulation device. A biological metronome, a way to keep life predictable, productive, compliant. Ever notice how exhaustion peaks at sunset? How anxiety spikes at dusk? How people feel watched during twilight? That's not poetic language. That's a side effect. Ancient civilizations may have known this. Sun disks appear in carvings across unrelated cultures, perfect circles with straight rays, not flames. Not spheres. Disks. Some texts describe the sun as something that could be opened, closed, or covered. Not eclipsed. Covered. The most disturbing part of the theory doesn't involve science. It involves maintenance. According to leaked satellite telemetry, data that shouldn't exist, the sun experiences downtime. Micro pauses in output, millisecond gaps where energy emission drops to zero. Humans don't consciously notice, but machines do. That's why solar observatories go offline, for calibration. Why satellites suddenly blind themselves. Why space agencies cut live feeds without explanation. They don't want anyone to see the edge. There's even a darker claim. The sun emits more than light and heat. It emits patterned radiation, information embedded in waves we can't perceive. Signals that influence hormone production, sleep cycles, aggression, docility. A calming pulse, a controlling one. If the sun were truly natural, it wouldn't need regulation. It wouldn't flicker, it wouldn't need excuses, and it wouldn't scare people who work closest to it. A former technician, whose interview was scrubbed hours after release, said this before disappearing from public record. It's not that the sun is fake. It's that it's finished. According to the flat sun theory, the structure is aging. The inconsistencies are increasing. The shadows are getting stranger. The heat less predictable. And whatever built it didn't plan for humanity to watch this closely. That's why the discussion is ridiculed. Why it's labeled insane. Why no one debates it seriously. Not because it's wrong. Because if the sun isn't a star, then night isn't natural, day isn't accidental, and time itself is being administered. So the next time you watch the sunrise, ask yourself something simple. Does it feel distant? Or does it feel near, like something turning on just for you? Because if the flat sun theory is right, the most dangerous thing isn't looking at the sun. It's realizing it's been looking back the entire time.